program, wherever you're watching us live right now, you know who we are with. You can see the person on the screen. This is a man who needs no introduction. He doesn't need to be introduced. We are pleased today to have with us the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, AAC, Mr. Omoyele Sowore. Mr. Omoyele Sowore needs no introduction. He is the founder of Sahara Reporters, a very, very prominent media platform that has made waves in Nigeria and in Africa and across the globe in terms of investigative journalism. And then Mr. Omoyele Sowore has a very solid background in activism in this country and around the globe, and he has been part of the democratic process in this country for the past 3 decades, if our figures are correct. So we're happy to have you here.
Thank you for bringing me to GoldMyne TV.
Thank you very much.
Can't find no gold around here.
So I think Bill Gates, was it Bill Gates who said the resources of the future is between our ears, not
yes,
not like the gold we have.
It's brain power.
Okay.
No question about
All right. I think that's one of the reasons why we are excited to bring you here. We've been following your campaign. Your campaign has been issues based, so we believe that that is some of the extension of that brain power.
Yes.
So I want us to go straight into the issues because I want us to talk about the issues. I've seen your manifesto. You are running for president in 2023. Okay, you ran in 2019. That's what. That's like under 50 billion.
Yeah.
So your budget proposal for 4 years is 500 billion, almost 200%, over 200% increase. So what we are spending right now.
Yes.
So how do you raise the money? And then how is it possible for you to put that without money in the nation? Because it's over 30 trillion already.
Yes.
So how do we
You have to understand that the reason for this massive interest in Nigeria for me is to go out there and turn Nigeria around. One of the ways I describe it is to turn Nigeria into a construction site. If you look at the number of houses that we need to cater for alone, you won't be surprised. And you look at how much we need to push our electricity levels from generation to distribution, you would understand why. If I want to keep electricity on for 24 hours in this country, it's not going to be cheap. So the question is, where do you get the money? And my answer is to say anything that can bring in money, it's never difficult to find money to build them. And there are a lot of funds out there. If Nigeria were to have the right kind of leadership that are waiting to, be harvested, that's the easiest way to put it, to do a lot of good work. The reason why you see that we look terrible these days is because we are borrowing for consumption. We are not borrowing to develop highways. We are not borrowing to develop electricity. We are not borrowing to create educational institutions that can increase the country's brain power to generate real wealth. So we are borrowing for consumption because the capacity of our leaders, their brain is working at 10%. And when your brain power is 10%, you only think about eating, going to work, and come back at 5 p.m. But I want to increase the capacity of the brain to work to a bigger percentage so that this country can produce and industrialize and then be able to take care of itself. I give you electricity. If you increase electricity from the miserable 3,000, between 5,000 and 3,000 megawatts now to about 25,000 megawatts, this country on its own will blow up. A lot of people who are trying to create small businesses will be, including you here. I'm sure part of the reason probably you're not doing too well as you want to do is because of the cost of maintaining your generators. They break down the cost of diesel. Just the cost of doing business alone in Nigeria kills businesses, particularly small businesses. And when you have these small businesses, they will pay to your country taxes. Because one of our biggest problems in Nigeria is that our tax to GDP ratio is the lowest in the sub-Saharan the sub-Saharan African region. And the moment you have functional institutions, industries, people will pay taxes. And you know the reason why Nigerian leaders don't like paying taxes? Because if people pay taxes, they will demand of you services. And because they don't want to serve anybody, they are comfortable with oil money. And what are we also getting from the oil money people talk about? Each time we sell oil for $100 per barrel, probably we only get 30% of that, get $30 as our own portion of it. Because the oil companies are shortchanging us. Why are they shortchanging us? They charge Nigeria for transportation of crude. And they are the owners of those barges that take the crude. So let's say Shell now, you sell 100, they have in between Nigeria and Shell an unknown company that's in charge of transportation of crude, and they can deduct that. When you do a bigger search into those companies, they are owned by the oil companies.
Hmm. So you've mentioned some things now.
Yeah.
You don't mind borrowing more to fund your budget.
I'm not saying that I will borrow.
Okay.
You understand? But I'm saying that even if you have to borrow, it will come as investment for those who are giving you the money into the country to develop this infrastructure in such a way that you can make an arrangement where they get back some of their investment. But it's not in a way that kills you. What I mean killing you is that when you go and take bonds from Europe and America, those bonds that you hear Euro bonds and it's oversubscribed, they're not oversubscribed because it works for you. They're oversubscribed because of the return on investment for the bond subscribers. So you are saddled with all these problems because your leadership don't even understand how the system works. What I'm saying is that look at people you mentioned, the Microsoft owner, Bill Gates here. He was in Nigeria at the time to invest in healthcare. He ran away because they were just fleecing him. Yes, he said it. He said, look, I don't know how I can keep throwing money into the basket here. So many others have left like that. What about the companies, industries that left Nigeria to go to Ghana? Your banking industry has its backbone for their internet backbone in Ghana because there's no electricity to even keep their computers working. So I'm saying if you do all the right things, depending on what you're investing in first and how transparent your investments are and how great your leaders are, some monies will come even in form of grants to invest in education, for instance. All the monies that goes to Ghana, Rwanda, because they seem to have better leadership than Nigeria, will come to Nigeria. Even conferences, tourism, a lot of things will bring in. Even Nigerians who are in the diaspora, if they have a leadership they can trust, they will come and invest here. So I'm saying the moment you open up the country and you have transparent and very serious leaders here, a lot of low-hanging investments will come to this place. If you have to borrow, you can then negotiate the terms of the mean interest of the loans. Because one of the things I would do is to audit so many of these borrowings that we are talking about. Some of them don't exist. I can guarantee you that because that's what happened during the Obasanjo period. They said they are repaying back loans. When they asked them, when did we borrow from you? Some of the companies, Paris Club, couldn't tell. They don't have any paperwork. They were just putting out figures of how much we owed. And most of the monies that we borrowed ended up in Abacha's bank accounts. So if Buhari is borrowing and they are stealing, I want to get the money back first from those thieves that stole them. So those are the issues that they don't talk about. These government people don't talk about what they are borrowing for. The $1 billion they borrowed to buy weapons. Do you know how it ended? It ended with all those major generals. One of them bought a car that is voice activated that we found out recently. A former, leader of the Nigerian army. There are several others like that all over the place. So that 1 billion we borrowed to buy weapons, how much was really spent on weapons? How much was stolen or frittered away or mismanaged by the military generals?
Yes. So you want to borrow. You borrow. I
said if I have to.
If you have to.
But if I have to, it will not be the kind of reckless borrow to go and eat that the regime is doing now. You'll be borrowing that will be an investment in what can bring us returns on that investment as quickly as. Look, if you build good roads, it will bring return on investment for you, even if you don't place toll gates in them. Because people can, instead of traveling for 12 hours, if you can get to your destination in 4 hours, if I can get from here to Abuja in 6 hours, it would boost the economy of Nigeria. If you can get from here to Kano in less than 8 or 9 hours, that means more people will be, if you invest in railway and you can transport by haulage a lot of goods and services, even if it is food for these 200 million people we have in Nigeria, there will be a return on investment. And then you can monitor that people are bringing in food, will pay some taxes to the government. So all this will bring in money almost immediately. That's what I'm saying. And I know that there are some of their face tell you that no, Sowore is not talking about micro and macro economics. I know macro and microeconomics, but I don't want to use it to deceive our people as a means of obfuscating issues affecting development. I'm a development economist, so to speak. I'm about development, and I'm not about corporate welfare. I'm not about socialism for the poor, and I'm a capitalism for the education. They don't deserve free health care. They don't deserve anything. But when it's time of the rich, you give them everything they need, including what they don't even need.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I've seen the picture you've painted here.
Yes.
We have a picture where the current crop of leadership, according to what you painted, they cannot be trusted. Now, recently,
I don't need to tell you that.
Recently, the candidate, because he's a hot topic right now,
Yeah.
the candidate of the Labour Party presidential candidate.
Yes.
Sorry, he said during an interview with Arise TV, I think it was the interview he did before you went there the last time.
Yes.
He said that he was asked that his manifesto and his agenda seems to rank with that of the PDP candidate, Atiku Abubakar. So he said that that was not the only thing there, but that all the candidates are promising the same thing. All the candidates are trying to move Nigeria towards the same place. But what is needed is who can we trust? That is the question. So talking about trust now, you have been, some people they call them career politicians. Some people call you a career. You've not been a governor before. So can Nigerians trust Sowore? Because you are making election promises.
Yes.
The PDP is making election promises. Same with the APC, Labour Party, everyone. So can we trust you? What is special about Mr. Sowore that gives you the pedigree of trust over the other candidates?
Integrity, number one.
Okay.
And integrity that lasted for 33 years by next year is no joke. I entered the university at the age of 18, University of Lagos. There's nobody out there who encountered me, who knew me, who would tell you that I did anything shady in my life. Some of them were only in government for 8 years. They've stolen half of the states. Second is that records. War, when I was a young person, democracy. That was the most important thing. We weren't even asking for economic development at that time. Nobody was asking for roads. We just wanted the military to be kicked out of power so that we can have control over who we choose as our leaders. I was one of the foot soldiers who fought for that. And I was never compromised. I was sent to jail. I never apologized to anybody. I was expelled from the university. I never apologized to anybody. I was almost killed. I never stopped till today. So when people say to you, oh, you should go to local government, they are revealing to you their internalized oppression. Is what they explain. And Nigeria does that to people. Nigeria would make you see a PhD holder and you tell the person to go and be driving Dangote trucks. And then it will give your country.
There's dignity in labor.
Yes, well, that's true. But then you will give the leadership of your country to people who don't have WAEC. That's what the Nigerian elite has done to the psyche of an average Nigerian. So that's why they look at you and say, hey, why don't you go to local government? Because they've ruined our self-esteem. Even some of the people who are saying you should go to local government are themselves qualified to be president better than the people who are managing the country. So many of them are qualified to be governors of their state. But they would rather be special assistants. Some of them are just Facebook data boys for governors. They don't even get to work for the governor. They work for somebody else who's working for the governor. You know, there are people who have master's degree and they are special assistant to special assistants. That's what Nigeria has done to so many people. So we don't blame them. I won't victim blame anybody who says so. Why don't you? But what I've told people is that that's not the issue. The issue is trust. And I'm saying is that place everybody who is running today on trust quotient. Because who amongst them can you trust, you know, with the management of a group, a management of even a WhatsApp admin? Yes. How many of them can you trust with it? So many of them don't even know how to use phones if they are not taught some of the features on the phone. So how do you trust such people with a modern economy, a modernized state, and all these great modern young people who are thinking digitally? You place their future and the ideals in the hands of people who live in the analog era. It is part of why you are getting some of the responses. You are getting the manipulation and the destruction of their destiny that has led us to some of these questions that we're asking. Because Americans didn't ask Obama, and I wish which governor were you before they made them, before he was voted for. They were listening to what was coming out of his mind and his brain. It was brain power, the way he spoke, the way he motivated, and the way he then eventually led them. But Nigerians are always asking for those who have nothing to say, and eventually those who have nothing to offer. Interestingly, most of the candidates that we have now have been given the position of trust, and they've abused trust. Most of them, the ones that I have to compete against mostly, they've been governors for 8 years in their various states. Ask of all the former governors that are running, in whose states can you go and spend vacation? Where you can say, oh, I'm leaving, or I want to go to.
A lot of people will say Lagos. That is one of the things that
Lagos,
the APC candidate
people
is
don't
campaigning
come to
on.
Lagos for vacation. People come to Lagos because they have nowhere to go. Yes, I've not heard about people came to Lagos. Lagos people go to Jamaica for vacation. They even go to Ghana for vacation. I've never heard that anybody came to Lagos for vacation before. Where would you be vacationing at? Will it be Lekki that after 2 hours of rain the place is underwater? Except if you're a scuba diver, then you can come and vacation in Lagos. So it's a lie. These are empirically things that you have evidence for. So why should we be lying to ourselves that they did Lagos well? When countries that are comparable to Lagos revenue are fantastic places to go to. Even if you go to Pretoria, which is seen as like a ghetto of South Africa, there are trains running there, intercity and intracity trains. Where do you have that in Lagos? Lagos of Korokwe transportation in 1922.
Okay,
2022.
Okay, Mr. Jure, point taken. So I want to come back to the issues how we started before. So we are going to take questions from those who are on Instagram. People are watching us live. But before we do that, okay, so you want to spend 500 billion, and then you want to reduce the cost of governance.
Yes.
So how do you marry this? You want to increase spending by over 200%. Then you want to reduce the cost of governance.
Yes.
How do we marry?
Cost of governance is associated with a lot of moribund ministries, departments and agencies of them. I'm going to get rid of that because I'm the president of the country. One of the things I will never do is to appoint a minister and a minister of state. What for? So when you already have a permanent secretary that is ready to work with the minister, some of the ministries I won't even appoint anybody to handle them. A lot of departments are moribund that you just deactivate them. And then you match them. Like I won't have an ICPC and EFCC. They're doing the same job. You understand? Why should you have duplicates?
But how do you this is a democracy? Some of these things will need legislative
there are also
approval.
so many of them that you can use executive power for.
Okay.
To get rid of them. It's your right not to appoint Minister of State as president. You can go, they can say to you, oh yeah, maybe great jobs, but that's not the kind of job I want to create. But ultimately, Nigeria must deal with one of its biggest means of waste, the parliament, the legislative system. We don't need a legislative system that's bicameral, Senate and House of Rep. For what? The Senate has become the retirement home of governors who already stole. You now leave the place for them. And what do? Fall asleep on almost a regular basis. They don't go to work. And we should be looking for even the House of Rep to make it a part-time job, since they go to work part-time anyways. So that we don't waste money. If you want to know how important it is for us to save money, look at how much they are earning per month. An average senator takes home almost 15 million naira per month. Lecturers who are on strike have to work for 7 years to make 15 million naira in their life. And they are the ones who taught the senators in school. That for those who didn't forge their certificates.
Yes. So you talked about the legislature now. You want this.
I'm just giving that as one of the examples of how, one other thing I'll do is the government have no business with pilgrimage. I'm not going to spend a dime sending anybody to Israel or Saudi Arabia. In fact, Islam forbids anybody being sponsored to Saudi Arabia anyways. They say if you don't have the money, wait until you have the money. If you know how much we waste on pilgrimage in this country, you will cry. I'm sure if we save all the money that we spend on those areas, you can use it to fund education. At any rate, are we sending babalawos to pilgrimage? No. So that in itself also shows the discrimination for a country that says to the world, we are secular. We don't have a state religion. So why are we funding religion? It's part of the problem we have. And I know this might sound a little bit, uncomfortable for people who benefit from it. But how would you be sending people to pilgrimage? And if you go and find out the cost of pilgrimage, you will cry for this country. But that's not the only places. There are a lot of loopholes and leakages that can be fixed directly by fighting corruption digitally. Because the problem we have now is that we wait until people have stolen money before we start fighting corruption. And it's difficult to collect money from people who have stolen it, even in America. The moment the money has left the government side, it's always difficult. Even the lawyers who are helping you to get the money back are sometimes corrupt or corrupted in the process. Look at the guys who were governors in 2007 and were taken to court by the EFCC. So many of them, their cases are still in court. Some of their witnesses have died. The whistleblowers have been compromised. So the cases are stalled. The ones that they managed to send to jail, they granted them pardon. So you see how tricky fighting corruption can be. But if, for instance, you make sure that all your procurements are digitally based, nobody get to touch it, nobody's using receipts, this handwritten receipt, longhand receipt to collect money and counting it with basket of water. We should have passed that stage. It's also a fantastic idea to use blockchain technology, which will transparently show some of these transactions, even wherever the money travels to. Blockchain can help you track it. Yes.
All right.
That's partially why I support the e-naira thing. But what is e-naira when the people who are running e-naira don't even know the value or the understanding of blockchain technology that should be the platform that should be running it? That's why it's still stalled. They don't know. You can't blame them. They have no idea.
Okay, all right. So there are a lot of ideas that are being implemented by the Buhari government that maybe they are good ideas, but the people behind them do not really know what they're doing. That's the picture you are painting.
No, I'm not painting the picture. Government don't know what they're doing. Don't misquote.
That's exactly what you're saying. You're not painting the picture. You're saying that is the fact.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Okay, I get that. Let's move to energy. You mentioned about the fact that we need to boost this economy. We need to generate
can't escape
power.
it now. There has never been an industrial revolution anywhere in the world without energy.
All right. So the world is trying to move to renewable energy.
Absolutely.
Now, we are not talking about extending the current pool. We're not talking about adding to what exists.
No, but you must also understand that some of what exists now is also renewable. Hydro is renewable.
Hydro?
Yes, it's renewable energy. It's green. But most people don't know.
But most Western economies now, it's usually based on fossil fuel. And the The current president of the US said he wants to move away from fossil. Fossil fuel.
That's it. That's, gas is still fossil.
Okay.
Burning gas is not going to help us in the long run, but it's still part of what we have to deal with because we have gas-powered plants all over the country. The US is not going to get rid of nuclear plants just like that, even though they are deactivating them now, because some of them say have lifespan and until they get it right on the renewable side. So, even coal, the transition they made in coal was not to abandon coal, it was to create a clean coal technology that makes coal cleaner than it used to be. But look at solar. We've got plenty of sunshine. Even countries that have no sunshine more than a certain number of hours, they are doing so well. Imagine if you turn, forest where Boko Haram is in
Sambisa forest.
If you turn it into a solar farm, we can generate over 4,000 megawatts of electricity from there.
But then another thing is it sustainable to move away entirely from fossil, or what we're going to have a hybrid system?
That's the reason why I said to you that the transition to renewable is that it renews itself, right? Without you, like if you burn gas, you can't bring it back. But gas is also still a major player in the energy sector. And considering that we have huge reserves of gas, GoldMyne land alone, we have over 6.3 billion cubic feet of gas in GoldMyne land. Not touched because we still have crisis between the GoldMyne people and our energy sector, the petroleum sector. So there's a lot that can be tapped within Nigeria itself, what we have now. What I'm telling you is that we have, as the religious people like to call it, the God-given sunshine. Why are we not using it all over? Maybe from Lagos to Maiduguri, Sambisa forest to, any forest in Nigeria, any part of Nigeria, you can use solar. Now the advantage with solar is that it can be retailed, especially when you start using mini grids. One of the problems we have in Nigeria is that everything is still centralized. We should be able to grow electricity on our roofs and sell to the community. If I have more, I'll sell into a small grid to generate electricity in my estate or in a part of Lagos. And it will encourage a lot more people to grow electricity on their roof.
Okay, the Senator John Kerry was in Nigeria recently, met with the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo. Nigeria is going to be signatory to a global climate treaty. So one of the things that is being discussed globally now is the effect of climate change on the environment. Yes. And this is one of the argument, this forms the basis for the argument that we need to move away from fossil fuel. Mm-hmm. So Nigeria needs enormous energy to power the next decade to grow the economy. So is it really sustainable? So if we have to be part of the climate treaty and you say no more gas, all the coal in Enugu, we know there is clean coal.
We can actually still explore coal and use clean coal technology. Okay. It's controversial, you understand? But this is the reason you should vote for people who even understand climate change. There are some of the candidates who don't know the meaning of climate change, you know that, right? Okay. So it's that there's a lot of technology out there that can be deployed. Even from fossil fuel, there are technologies that are out there that can tap into some of the more rudimentary, fossil fuel to turn them around. So that, for instance, we are still flaring gas in Nigeria, and we can still capture those gas. And when gas is taken care of a certain way, it produces just more than gas. I was telling people one of the biggest things we haven't even done is that I don't know if there's a national gas policy that enables everybody to get cooking gas in their kitchen without rolling around, the container they call gas cylinders.
So you have like running water.
Yes. We're not even talking about running water yet, but I'm saying that there's a lot out there that can still be done to what we have and still be part of the climate change agenda for the future. So, but Nigerians like signing up to treaties. Sometimes they don't even know the fine prints of the treaties they're signing up to. They don't. So they just go travel with a full load of planes, they go and sign. You remember that there was a time Donald Trump had Buhari signing to an agricultural, he was was making fun of Buhari that Buhari didn't read what he signed. You can't blame him. Buhari probably can't even read it. And I'm saying it categorically. This is what I know. He says the guy's just stiff.
So if there is any global treaty that we are signed on to,
yes,
and you become president, you are elected president,
yes,
and you find it not in line with your agenda or what you believe is your vision for the country, are you going to pull Nigeria out of those treaties?
Yes. There's a lot of treaties out there that doesn't respect the place of Nigeria as a major player in the world, and that's why Nigeria should be on the Security Council, not as a part-time member, but as a full-time member
Of the U.S. Security Council?
Yes.
Okay.
We are world's most populous black nation. We should be on there, so that it's not just pulling out of treaties, it's also blocking treaties that are not in the interest of the black man.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So let's move on, sir. We have a few questions here before we go to Instagram and take the questions from there. So Peter Obi and Atiku recently said that the federal government has no business managing education. Atiku wants to return federal varsities to the states. Peter Obi wants the federal government to answer. Is that a policy you subscribe to?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Because education is just too important to be left in the hands of people who are not interested in investing in that. I would make education so important from primary to tertiary level, such that the deductions for the education sector will be made a source. Anytime you want to invest in it. Let me give you an example. In 1989 and 1990, when I was entering the University of Lagos, we had to fight the World Bank and the IMF because they said, don't invest in education, don't pay money to people to go to school, don't give them free education. And one of the reasons I was interested in it was that in 1980, my village in Ondo State only produces 6, not graduates though, secondary school entrants. Because of the secondary school exam, you have to go to another place. But then Obafemi Awolow's free education policy came. 450 people came out of the bush. That's the way I like to describe it, to go to secondary school. Some of them, their feet cannot fit into the sandals that were available. But they gave us books, pencils, erasers. We had such a big eraser, I can't stop telling this story. My cousin, female, when she got home, she ate up the erasers. She just pour oil on it. She thought it was food. So that was how much investment they made in education, and that liberated and democratized education. So if Peter Obi did not get free education, he wouldn't have been able to get a BA. I'm sure. I know that they say his parents are rich, but I'm sure that the fact that education was cheap during his time made it possible and easier for him to go to school. He cannot compare what he spent in going to school in Nigeria at UNN and Nsukka to what he spent in sending his kids to school in the UK. So is it not better for it today that he was able to get his BA from a school that was cheap? When I was entering the University of Lagos, 45 naira was our school fees. 45 naira. My father couldn't even afford it. He was only able to afford 20. We had to go and borrow 25 naira. Am I not sitting in front of you today with the little education I was able to get? My education from the secondary school, one ramshackle secondary school in my village called Community High School, Kilibu, took me to Columbia University, one of the 10 best universities in the US, probably one of the best in the world. Had I not been given free education, would I be there? But most importantly, in the last 2 years, 8,000 doctors have left Nigeria to go and treat the parents of the people who said free education is bad. I'm sure some of those 8,000 doctors would not have become doctors today had we listened to the World Bank and the IMF in 1989, not to invest in education. Now, those guys are going to be helping out their own economies to get their health sector in shape. So, I would say this is why you should not vote for people who don't understand their society. The reason why Atiku is saying what he said is because when ASU went on strike during the time it was VP, they went and obtained private licenses to build their own universities, and they are fleecing people who are going to those schools. But what happens to the children of the poor? How do we send them to school so that they don't become liability on our society, but they can also become global citizens? Do you know that it is possible, and I'm sure it has happened, that some of the schools who went to these schools we are talking about have been involved in changing the world elsewhere after they got the so-called cheap schools we went to? To invest in education means that we're investing in the future of the security of this country. Because in a country where people don't get educated, we have a security problem in the future. The 20 million kids that are out of school are potential recruits for Boko Haram, kidnappers, and as Obafemi Awolowo said, very soon, the children you refuse to invest in will become a problem to you wherever you are staying. So if you like, be staying in Lekki, Ajah, Victoria Land with toll gates. As long as you don't invest in these kids, they will find you wherever you are. Even your private university will soon be closed down by bandits because you forgot them. You forgot that they are part of the country. There was a time Atiku's University was almost closed down because Boko Haram was approaching the university from Mubi, I think, in Adamawa State. So these are the kids that we abandoned. So they don't know what they are saying. They don't understand what it means to invest in the future of kids of any country. Every country in the world, including the US, where they claim the IMF is based and the World Bank is based, they are investing in the education of their children. They don't play with education. My kids, who are based in the US, had laptops given to them when they were still in what you call primary 6 by their schools. They give them food twice. Not only do they give them food, they give them quality food. Their schools have sick bays where if they fall sick, they are treated. Their sick bays are better than our general hospitals here in Nigeria. So they don't know what they're saying. They don't know how important it is. In the first place, where did they get money to train their own children? Is it not the money that some of them stole from Nigeria? If education is so not important, why is it that Buhari didn't go to school, send all his children to go to the best schools in the UK and Atiku and even Peter Obi and the rest of them? Why do they send them to good schools? Why don't they send them to the schools that they claim they invested in? Yes.
All right. That was quite elaborate. The next question, I just want us to keep wrapping this to keep up the pace. So, how do you want to tackle? Let's say, okay, let's leave that. Let's go to if you are elected president. If Nigerians.
When I'm elected president, I prefer that way.
Okay, you prefer when?
Yes.
Okay, sir. Okay,
it's a matter of time.
So, what plan do you have for political prisoners? Somebody like Nnamdi Kanu, some journalists and activists who are in detention, even those who have been arrested on plausible basis of maybe crimes committed, who are being held by the DSS. Are you going to release Nnamdi Kanu if you become president?
Oh yes, I tried to visit him like a week ago, and I was denied visitation rights. And we don't need to have political prisoners under a democratic system. Those people are being held against their will for asking for their rights. I've known Kanu for a while now. I met him physically in 2019 in New York City. I spoke to him extensively. What are the problems? He told me about it. I'm not going to disclose them here. But some of these problems are very, very easy to solve because they are based on justice. Some of the agitators just want a country that works for them. And when it's not working, they want to figure out whether if they break it apart, they can survive in their own part of the country. I am a Pan-Africanist. I've said this many times. It's not an appellation. It's my conviction, my internal belief. And that is that Africa itself should be one country so that we can compete against the US, Canada, and the rest of them, China, who are world leaders, powerful powers, major world powers, because of their population. The reason why China is doing so well is largely because of their population. They don't have oil, they don't have copper, but their population and the power of that population is what is delivering the power, the global power they have to them. The same thing with India. And they're now predicting that Nigeria will probably have more people than the US by 2050. We should be preparing for that. We should be world power based on our population, but it involves a population that has brain power. That's why education is very, very important for me as a person. Because I want to see these Nigerians take over the world. Not as aliens, but as brilliant people who, and already Nigerians are all over the world doing very well for themselves. But this place is darkness. You can never do well in a country that is managed the way it is. There are some Nigerians that after 2 weeks of leaving Nigeria, they start sending pictures to us. We would think that they've gone to the moon. Suddenly their skin is fresh. They're doing very well. They bought a car. They own homes in a year. And then the rest of us now start thinking about Japa. Yeah. So because the opportunities are there when they arrive. I'm not saying leave this country. I think it's one of the best countries in the world if it's properly managed. The rest of the world want to come here. Not the rest of us want to live here.
So, Mr. Sowore, you believe in a united African Republic?
Absolutely.
All right. Just like this man, Mama Gaddafi, I think he was trying to push the same agenda.
Yeah, but Mama's own it was at the end of his unusually long tenure. So nobody trusted him that he wanted to unite Africa for the good of Africa. But this, of course, you could also see the way he was pursued, that somebody is afraid of a united Africa.
All right, point taken. Okay, so so I think that is all from here. So we're going to go to social media now and see some of the questions that our followers are trying to ask. So if you are watching us on Instagram right now, I don't know if we can put some people through just to join us, if they can join us and they can be part of this conversation. I don't know whoever they are supporting. Let's see how many people can join us. Viewers at home, we have here the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, Mr. Omoyele Sowore. If you have been following the show, you know he has said a lot. So if you have anything to say, please, just tell us your name. You can ask him, so we can relay the question to him. Be very brief. Okay, go ahead, sir.
My name is Olakunle Tipsy.
Okay.
I'm calling from South Africa.
Okay.
I'm calling from South Africa.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Your Excellency.
Good afternoon. I don't like the word excellency because these guys are not excellent people. The people who bear that useless appellation. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm one of your fans.
Okay, please go ahead with your question. He can hear you.
Good afternoon.
I live in South Africa. I just want to.
Oh, we lost him.
Oh, I think. It's the connection is.
It's bad.
The connection is bad. Maybe when we have a united
African
Republic, we have a super solid internet connection.
You are.
Oh, are you still there? Oh, the connection is bad. I think we have to let him go. I think we have to let him go. Let me see. Okay, let's see if some people drop questions on the thread. So we are hitting the home run right now.
Yeah.
I think we are almost done with what we are doing here. We are hitting the home run right now. Okay, so Mr. Sowore, you led a protest, revolution now.
Yes.
You want there to be a revolution in Nigeria.
Yes.
However that is defined. And then you are running, you want to scrap the Senate. You have proposed constitutional amendments. You want to scrap the constitutional amendment. Let us have an
constitution. Yeah.
Right now, you are running under the requirements, under the stipulations and laws of this constitution. So if you not believe in the validity of this constitution, why are you submitting yourself to this process?
Well, I'm submitting myself to it because when South Africa ended apartheid, they had even the apartheid warriors had to submit to the constitution that led them into a new South Africa. It's very simple. When we get there, we have an interim constitution that keep us going until we set up a real constitution. It's nothing strange. It's nothing new. That's the revolution we are talking about. Is to have a revolutionary-minded leadership that is willing to turn around every facet of our lives. And there's a lot to turn around, and we don't have time. We have no time. So I cannot say, well, I won't go to INEC, even though I don't like INEC. I know INEC can be trusted with free and fair election. But that might itself be their undoing. So just watch. And you know, when we're doing the revolution now, people were mocking us, but our opponents are also using the word revolution now freely. The revolution we're asking for, Sowore, is here. No, that's not the kind of revolution we're asking for. We're not asking for a PDP transformed revolution. No, because we know that these are counter-revolutionary elements. Yeah.
So how do you achieve what you want to achieve without, if a President Sowore will need the legislature to function? So how do you do your reforms without the legislature?
Have you heard about Colombia? One guy just won an election in Colombia recently. I don't remember his name. Yeah, and he was even linked with the rebellion in that country. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to change the constitution, and the parliament were dragging their feet. The people came out on the streets, millions of them. You want to change the constitution, what are you waiting for? Your parliament has 109 people. In Nigeria, I think, right? It's 109. Is it 96?
109 in the Senate.
Senate and about
316.
And you have 200 million people. If 200 million people want change, can 109 people stop it? Definitely not. That's the truth. But you see, let's even start with the powers that the president has written in the constitution we're talking about. There's a lot of things you can do as president without offending the parliament. But if the parliament is representative of the people, then they have to listen to the people. I'm not even thinking about punishment for not listening to it, because it can be recalled. Because I know that recall can also be very tricky. I know there were a lot of people who wanted to recall Dino Melai, but by the time they introduced their own abracadabra, the content of the recall was different from what the bag they brought to INEC. So, but we're saying if the people want change, like I keep telling people, if I give bursary to students, 100,000 naira per semester, and the parliament say they don't want students to get bursary, and we have the money for it, can they confront the Nigerian students who are benefiting? So
you are ready to galvanize the people to demand
I'm not the president
for what
of the
they want.
country, not the president of the parliament. But I will work with the parliament. I would hope that a parliament or the legislative arm continue to be reasonable, or is people by reasonable people. That's my expectation. In the US, there are two major political parties, and it's not all the time that the ruling party is the majority in a Congress, as they call it. But they still get things done. When Biden wanted to do an infrastructure budget of about $1 trillion, it's not everybody that agreed with him, but the people who need it said, well, you better sign up. The same thing with Obamacare. Even as terrible as Trump was, he couldn't overturn it, because the people need health care. They don't need rhetorics. Yes.
All right, sir. Okay, so I think at this point, I think we can call it a day.
You know that when Nigerians hear brilliant ideas, they don't waste time with too many questions.
Okay, so let me ask one final question.
Yes, sir.
If another person becomes president, let's say Tinubu or Atiku or Peter Obi, and they invite you to be part of their government, is it is it a possibility you're willing to consider?
I never consider working with people with whom I have fundamental disagreements. And this is not the first time. We were called upon during military rule to come and work with them. We said, no, we don't want military rule, so how can we then support it? If I don't, like they used to say on the internet, God forbid bad things.
Okay, Mr. Omoyele Sowore, it's a pleasure. We are very, very happy to have you here. GoldMyne Politics, that's what we call our political show. Yes. We do it every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. So.
And I hope you guys are able to get some of the candidates in here.
Honestly, we are hoping so. So
yes.
we want to throw this challenge. Tinubu.